All right. We are officially live on Facebook, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, Chris, I didn't promote this because I thought it would be really cool to just impromptu. And I know you're dealing with like you're getting your equipment set up and I got new equipment. So I was like, let's go live and cool if people join, but if not, it's going to be all good too, because we would just do this on impromptu. And it's kind of what I want the feel to be, because you and I had an amazing discussion a couple of weeks ago, just before the holidays. And it was all about, just us going back and forth about business planning. And then we went off into some rants about, working with referral partners and that sort of thing. And I was like, we need to stop, because this is good. We got to record this, right? And then get some
Right.
good clips from this. I'm going to fix my camera a little bit just so it's not cutting off my head. But oh, I don't like that. There we go. Anyway, so I thought it'd be really cool to let me just see if this is live. I'm going to try to put us in. All right. I have us live now, so we're good. So I can see us on Facebook, and so if anybody asks us questions, I can actually, jump in there and we can answer questions and that sort of thing. But okay, so Chris, I want to introduce you. Chris Gonzales is also your neighborhood lender, and has spent a lot of his time building his brand and his name in the Anthem community here in Arizona. Now, truth be known, I'm a recruiter. It's what I do. I try to meet LOs and I try to recruit them to come to our company. And Chris is like, I'm not going to your company. But we agreed that we like each other so much that we were going to continue to work together and collaborate.
I think that was nicer than than saying I don't like your company. I wasn't going to your company or anything
I
like that. I didn't say anything like that.
Chris, it felt that way. It's the feelings I leave with that matter, right? So no, you were very nice, and you've never said that, but I'm saying that also in case any of your managers tend to watch this. I gotta boost that up, right?
I
So
appreciate that.
so anyway, no, but I one of the things that really resonated with me is you were doing all the right things, and you're branding yourself. You're taking advantage of the fact that we're in a digital community. Your business has increased year over year over year. You're starting to lean in on digital involvement by getting a podcast going. You're starting to buy the equipment. So all these things were just very exciting for me. And I was like, dude, this guy's going to crush it. He is going to do some amazing things. And you've already done amazing things. And so I thought it would be really cool for us to come together and just collaborate, because to our point the other day, there's not enough LOs working at different companies that have nothing to do with each other, in terms of my business doesn't impact your business doesn't impact me. Yet we still find it necessary to connect and share ideas. And so, Chris, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I mean, the conversations we've had, I've really been engaged with them, and I love them because it speaks to just how this business operates and runs. The truth is it's kind of a confidence thing too, just to know that there are other people, other originators at other places that think like I do, and not in the sense of just trying to compete and crush each other. I mean, there's that aspect
There's
of things,
that, yeah.
but it's like, am I the only one thinking about this? Am I the only one trying to do something like this? And it's reassuring to see other originators try to engage their audience and engage their clients in this way. And so when we've collaborated, I mean, just to know that I'm not alone in the
Yep.
way kind of I'm seeing things too, or what I've encountered is reassuring. And that's what I love about this dialogue and our conversations and the relationship that we have built going forward into this. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share these thoughts. Right, like we discussed, it's helps build that credibility that when you're trying to talk to a client or a referral partner and you're trying to explain what's going on in the industry. You can say, look, I've talked to other people that are experiencing these same things, where I'm not the only one just trying to say it to make myself look good.
Well, it's so true, right? And getting that validation, because it's a lonely world, and it's become a much lonelier world, right? Before, I could walk down the hall and I can talk to somebody and be like, am I crazy? Like this XYZ just happened. And then you get some validation that either one, you're crazy, or two, you're not crazy. But then we go into a COVID environment where a lot of us are working in our offices by ourselves, and you're like, "Am I? This is wacky." Like, I got a realtor that wants us to close this in a week.
Yeah.
And do they know what world we're living in?
And they're telling you, "Oh, my other person can do it in 2 weeks or a week and a half." And it's like,
Yeah.
how is that possible?
How is that possible, right? So no, I mean, and so it's really good to just talk to other people to get that validation. And I think far often we only stick with our own companies, right, and only share ideas within our own companies. But as we got into a COVID environment, it's been really cool to just engage and collaborate with people at different companies. So I really agree with your sentiment that just being able to engage and agree on some things has been really phenomenon and a phenomenon for us. And so I want to ask you, I wanted to start off with going into this because I thought it was really cool. And you kind of said this, we're two guys that have nothing to do with each other and we want to collaborate, and it'll be really cool to go on and just, test our equipment, go live and see if we can inspire some people. Right. And so I think the cool thing about what you're doing is early on, you started, and I'm curious to know when this happened with you. When did you realize that branding yourself was important? And if you're like me, I grew up in a corporate environment where you never branded yourself. You're a byproduct of the company that you work for, right? So you're going to wear their shirt. You're just going to be them. And there's nothing about you and your personality that needs to shine. And then LinkedIn comes along, and Facebook comes along, and all these other, really cool avenues for us to go digital come along. And I see you leaned into it. And there's not a lot of LOs that are leaning into it the way that you're doing. And so tell me when that thought came to your mind and what inspired you to really start building your brand, especially as being like your neighborhood lender.
Yeah, no, these are good questions. I think that a lot of it started a few years ago, back in 2018. And many originators in the industry who have been around before then, right, will know that 2018 was what we call the great margin compression. And, and so
yes,
if I heard the word margin at any time during 2018, I would just want to slap somebody because I was like, I'm tired of hearing about margins.
That's so true. So true.
But the thing is that I saw my business withering away on the purchase side, and it was very hard to stay competitive. And so we all were facing the same problems. And I said, well, what am I going to do to differentiate myself going forward? And what kind of came to mind was the idea of branding was kind of by accident. I wasn't really seeing the vision and kind of how that ROI transpires. But when I started like diving into some of the social media gurus out there, the Gary V's, listening to Grant Cardone, kind of just thinking more openly about it and reading their material, I started noticing that it's a gradual, it builds. Whatever you do today, what you do tomorrow builds on what you did today, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, well, I got to start somewhere. And I was like, I'm just going to start with making my own vanity website. And I'm going to blog because there's a lot of content and material I talk about with clients and referral partners over the phone and in person. And then I'll have a good 45-minute conversation with an agent partner or a client. And then, they would say, well, can you email me all that? and I'd be like, we just talked 45 minutes about it. I can't, to craft the right email and the message. So I was like, okay, well, this is clearly a problem. I can't sit here and do all these emails, all day. So I said, well, I'm going to start blogging about the most common things that I run across. So I would blog about down payment assistance, down payment types, self-employed borrowers. Like that's where I just started, and I had to learn a little bit. And so when I started the website, I had no idea how WordPress works. I still don't know how it works. And, but
you have to start somewhere. You have to lean into something, and then, you get better over time, and, it just becomes a life of its own.
It would take me maybe 30, 40 minutes to draft up the blog and edit it down. And because I don't mind writing it, but then it would take me 2 hours to figure out like how to even post it and then find the right picture and then figure out the keyword and do all this other stuff.
It's such a creative process that you have to go through. I mean, it's homework, right? Like you're at night, you're trying to be creative and type it all up. And people don't realize all the work that goes into it. And then you put it out to the world and you get like 4 likes on it or something, it's like,
or you get nothing. It just crickets.
You get nothing. Yes.
and so that was happening for a good 6 months. But what I was doing is I would share the links to my website for that material when people would ask me for it. I would print it out and hand it to agents at meetings and things. And so I would try to I would have to just create value for it. And
Absolutely.
I didn't get any leads directly from the blog and from my website. Okay. I want to make that clear. It wasn't like I generated SEO and all that stuff. No.
Agreed.
But what it did was it helped me with my conversion ratio because I had something that was credible. Like
That's it. Yes.
I put it out there, and then I would share material that I would find, about the market and say, hey, this correlates to my blog, and I would try to incorporate that article into an article into my write up. There was one time I remember this too. It was toward the end of 2018, the fall of 2018. The question was, what's housing going to do in 2019? And I didn't have any technical analysis. I kind of had a feeling, this is just the way it works, right? I had this feeling that, 2019, I think is going to be a good market for buyers and for purchases. And I put out my 6 reasons why it's going to be a good time to buy in 2019. And it was probably, and I was one of the only people that did something like that.
Yes.
Not that it got like national attention. So let's be clear. But I would share this with agents and I would show them the value of like, hey, like here's some things that you can talk to your clients about. Here's some things that you can talk to your sellers about, right?
Yep.
And so then about 3 months later, I saw an article in the Phoenix Business Journal come out talking about how housing was going to be strong in 2019. And I'm like, I did it. I put myself out there and there's something that came by that I could share and said, I pointed this out already.
Yes.
And there were reasons that correlated to what I talked about. And so it was just really cool to see that. And that gave me a huge confidence boost to say, what else can I talk about and expand on? What else do I need to learn now? And so 2018 is where it all started. And last year or 2019 was kind of this refi boom, right? And so kind of already had things positioned. Last year, fantastic year for mortgage originators and refinances, of course. There's a lot more to unpack about the rest of the economy, but looking at last year, I'm thinking I need to get into audio. I need to put more of this information out there, more of these techniques and tactics and things to really consider. What refinancing isn't just about a rate. Consumers have been educated that way because it's rate, shop this, shop that. No, there's much more to a strategy. And so that this whole get into audio, blog, social media really does help you transform into that advisor role that most of us are trying to strive to be, other than just kind of a rate and term kind of, jockey, right? So yeah, 2018, that I call that a blessing and a curse at the same time. I mean, it was what was needed for me personally, just in some other areas of my life. But for my business, that's when you have downturns and you have struggle, that's when you evolve and it forces you to change.
That's it. Yep. Well, so let me jump in because you've said so much and I want to I got so many comments on a few, but we have some people that have joined and I think this is really cool. But for those of you that may not be in the mortgage, in the mortgage space, there's peaks and valleys that happen based on the market. And the consumer responds based on what they see on TV. There's an influx of ads right now. I barely listen to any sort of commercials, but anytime I have something happening in the background, all I hear is you can lower your rate, right? It's some company talking about you can lower your rate that resonates with people. And they say, oh, who did I do my last mortgage with? I'm calling them, right? So here is there's 4 big, since I've been in the industry, 4 big happenings, 4 big occurrences that happened in our career, right? So it was the Great Recession, and we all got punched in the face then, and right before the Great Recession was the big bubble, and we loved it then, right? And it was like 2006, 2007 when it was just bonkers. Anybody can get a mortgage. Everyone was winning. So many people were jumping into the mortgage space that shouldn't be in the mortgage space. And then the Great Recession happened. And then we had a housing crisis and all these things came up. And then you had to ask yourself, do I stay in this business? Do I get out of it? Right. And then we won. We were winning for the next 10 years. We won. We were just crushing it. And then 2018 happened. And what happened with 2018, in my opinion, was digital entered the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And the consumer was doing everything with their phone. I was going to pick up my calculator. The consumer was doing everything with their phone. And they were getting data in a way that most people, shop for airlines on mortgages. And they were able to get information about their mortgage. And so what happened is we lost about 77 basis points. And this may mean nothing to most people, but if you're a lender, this makes sense. We lost about 77 basis points in the margin on the overall product in 2018. So every deal you had in pipeline was getting, squashed, right? It was like, or another lender was pulling it. And so it just got really competitive. Yeah. And then 2019 led to 2020. And we all kept hearing there's going to be another recession. There's going to be another recession, another recession. And everybody had these great predictions. So we were all prepping for this because recession means rates drop. That means we go into a rally. And what happened was we went into COVID instead. Mm-hmm. No one expected that. We ended up in our offices by ourselves, with a lot of time to think and a lot of customers to help. And so to your point, getting in at the time that you did is really crucial. Now I'm going to hit on one more point. I know we can move on from the topic if you like, but one of the things that you said was really clear to me was going on a social doesn't mean that you're going to get a lead from that, right? So if I post, hey, we have low rates today, that doesn't mean I'm going to get an influx of people calling me to do their mortgage. That's not the point of it. But you have a voice. Everybody in this industry has a voice. They have an opinion and they have stories to tell. And if you can start to share those stories with your audience, what that does is it gives an audience a sense of who you are and why it would make sense to want to use you. They may be busy right now and they may not call you, but if you consistently do messaging and you consistently become the expert in your marketplace, in your digital community of the people that you're surrounded by, then that becomes more confident. So when the realtor says, hey, call Chris Gonzalez, your neighborhood lender, they're like, I've heard of that guy. I saw him on Facebook the other day. Right. Or somebody else says, one of their friends says, hey, you should use my buddy Chris. And they're like, I'm going to look him up on Facebook. Well, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Yes. And it's a conversion enhancer, if you will, because it's not like they're just going to call you and say, let me use you because of this. I got to tell you real quickly, I got to give a shout out to this guy, Chris Gonzales, who joined, because Chris Gonzales is another Chris Gonzales out of New Mexico. I accidentally called him when I meant to call you. And then we started talking, and I talked to him for like 2 days until I realized that it wasn't you. Chris Gonzales, what's up, man? That is so funny. Look, this is him.
I'm gonna go and Facebook friend request him after this because I remember you telling me that story, and I'm like, oh, this random Chris Gonzales you called. And
what's funny is he has a 480 number, right? So I'm sure I'm talking to him until we end up on a whole complete. Like he's like, dude, I'm in New Mexico. I'm like, what? And it just like, it just went sideways. But anyway, so going back to enhancers, right? So I think this is a conversion enhancer because what it does is it gives you more confidence when you finally, as I put it, when I finally pick up the phone and muster up the courage to call someone, I'm hoping they kind of know me. I'm hoping that they've seen some, something I've put out that they're like, oh, I know that guy. I feel like he's pretty cool, and my whole, idea is to figure out a way. Anthony, what is going on? Thanks for joining us and checking this out. But I feel like that's a really good way to tell your story and share ideas. Like this guy Anthony's in insurance, and there's so many people that need healthcare and that need some sort of insurance, capability. And imagine him telling his story and how that would resonate with the audience to say, I'm going to use this guy, right? And that's where branding comes in, and it's just so cool that we have that option. So let's talk a little bit about 2020. So we go into COVID. You go crush it, right? You had your best year in your career. Is that a true statement?
No, it is true. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of originators did, and I was fortunate just to be in the position that I was, and also to, I mean, it really we're in a very fortunate business.
We are.
What happened last year? I mean, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, without work. We've had those conversations with those people getting laid off. But 2020. with the clients that I have, I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful they remembered me and reached out, and it wouldn't have been possible without that, to be very frank, right? But yeah, 2020 was a good year, and it opened up what is it that I need to make sure I'm prepared for going to not to 2021, but 22, 23, 24, because we're seeing the metrics come out about housing and what's expected with inventory, what's expected with new buyers coming into the market, and how the recovery is shaping up. That as originators, we cannot sit and just plan for what is this year going to be. We have to plan for the next 3 to 5 years down the road.
We're planning right now. If you're smart, you're planning on when we have no refis in the market, how do we continue to sustain the lifestyles and the income? How do we continue to help people get into houses when we're in that space?
And this is where when you mentioned in the beginning, how I'm working the local North Phoenix quadrant market, Anthem area, for example. I've been a member of the Anthem Area Chamber of Commerce since 2016. And when I first joined the chamber, my whole goal and intent was to meet new people, just make some friends, and just kind of just get active in the community. I grew up in scouting, and just community service and giving back somehow has always been a part of my upbringing. And so, but in doing that in the process, I was just naturally seeing business come my way. And now when I look at the future and I think about what does my involvement in the chamber have to do with anything? I'm on the board of directors now. I'm involved in other leadership committees and programs and things. I'm starting to come across the leadership within the different departments of the state, right?
Yes.
I've met the Arizona Commerce Authority. I've met the State Land Trust. I've met our city council office, the representatives and the staff that work with our city council person. I've met my state legislator. I've met these people, and it's like, well, what does that have to do with mortgages? You learn so much about what is growing in the area. Give you a perfect example. Just over here off the 303 and the 17, between the 303 and Carefree Highway across from Ben Avery, you may have heard it recently, the Taiwan Microchip Corporation, right?
Yes.
Semiconductor plant just bought a huge swath of land from the State Land Trust over here, not 5 minutes from my house, right? 1,900 new jobs to the valley.
Yeah,
amazing. Bet there's going to be a huge percentage of those jobs and those workers that are going to be living in the North Phoenix area.
Yes.
Now, think about what that means. Yes. New construction, resales, values are going to be amazing. Honor Health just finished building their multi-million-dollar project here, and they don't make that kind of investment in an area unless they can see a return, and their margins are thin on those returns. So, these are the things that you learn about the growth, and it's like, I want to be positioned within the community and within the dialogue for when that is actually taking effect. Guess who pops up? Guess who's name?
Be top of mind. You got to be top of mind. Exactly. Your neighborhood lender, Chris Gonzales.
This is the growth. Micro growth is huge, I think, in the valley here, and there's plenty of opportunities for originators. We know the numbers with California, with the East Coast, New York, Chicago, places that have high taxes, right? We know what the opportunity is for housing growth here. We can't just be thinking about 2021. Where's my purchase today? Where's my purchase business the next 3 years?
Yes. So that's it, right? You got there's two different ways to do this, right? And there's so many. There's two big things that I think every LO needs to have as in their arsenal of how they approach their business. And number one, you have to start with a plan, right? And so what Chris is saying is I have to be thinking about 2022 and 2023, right? There's these macro level type of goals, and then you got to get really micro. What am I going to do this week? What am I going to do for this month? What am I going to do today, right? And then there's these other pieces of branding yourself and really building digital communities where you can go out and start to engage with people that you would have never had an opportunity to engage with. I've been, you got to get into this, Chris, and I don't know if you are yet. If I can get an invite, I will invite you. But in Clubhouse is a really amazing way to learn and engage with people that are doing similar things that you're doing, maybe in different industries, and to just collaborate on hearing like, what are you doing and how are you building your brand? And, all those things really like blow my mind on just talking to other people and learning from them. And this is a really good example of it. But we have this digital space at our fingertips, and you have the ability to learn from people all over the world, and then you have an ability to really drive all of your attention into a very localized anthem area, right? Like that
That's
quadrant
it.
that you're talking about. And
Yeah.
so it's Alec Hansen. I did a clip yesterday. I posted it, but he and I did a podcast, and he talked really deep about this. This is marketing 2.0. The ability to, instead of going to the open houses, instead of going to the chamber events, instead of going to, you now have this ability to just go online at night and engage with people within your community in just a different way. And that right there is where I think the people who can lean into that are going to be the people who are around in 2022, 2023 and still winning.
You know, and it's when I think about marketing 2.0, right? Those points you just mentioned, many originators, real estate agents included, right? Or anybody in financial services industry will kind of have this question when somebody says you should do a blog or a podcast. It's, well, what am I going to talk about? Right? Like that's the number one question. And we believe when we first ask that question that we have to talk about something to do with our industry and ourselves. And it's not that at all. And it does take a learning curve. You have to kind of figure that out on your own a little bit when you're going through those exercises.
Absolutely. What's your messaging?
But the 2.0, when you say engage with the community, I can talk credibly about what is going on with, for instance, the growth I just mentioned, because I've seen it. I saw it starting a year and a half ago when this was kind of just a little headline, like this may happen, right? Well, let's follow this. Let's keep an eye on it. And then you start meeting the powers that be that are in those actual negotiations, giving you the information of what's happening that just hasn't maybe been reported yet. And it's not inside information. It's still public knowledge. Nobody just came to them yet. But walking your audience and your clients through that and saying, here's what happened, here's where the growth is coming. These, look for this next step, right?
Yes.
Now you're like, now people are like, oh, that guy mentions, some mortgage guy, I think his name was Gonzalez, whatever. He mentioned something about that already. Well, then couple that with, okay, you're on social doing your posts, things pop up. Maybe you design an ad or whatever. But you are engaged in the fabric of the community, right? Like I participate on the board of directors. So, sometimes my name comes up in the local publication about something the chamber's doing, right? The gala, for instance, or, whatever it is, oh yeah, I remember that guy that was doing it. It's that top of mind. You're continuing to just roll with it. And it just comes naturally. You don't have to like go and reinvent anything to get that traction anymore.
No, without a doubt. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? And so if you think ahead, like, I'll give another shout out to Sean Uehara, who is in Vegas, and he's doing this really amazing thing where he's just started building an episode by episode for YouTube on anybody who's looking to move to Las Vegas, right? And so he's not even talking about mortgages. He's just talking about, this is what to expect when you move here, right? Here are the shopping centers. Here's where you take your pets to do this. Here's where you go for hikes. And there's like an episode by episode by episode. And he's also like, and by the way, you got to come here when it's hot and see if you can handle it, right? Because it sucks when it's hot. And we're the same thing. But if you think about those types of, he's planning on like the same thing you are, right? Like 2022, 2023. He's what what you do today and the brand that you're trying to create today and build is really for the consumer that you're going to be helping a year from now. And you're trying to build that content and that, that localized, I know where to send you. I know the restaurants, I know the schools, I know those things. And that's something that the guy or girl sitting in a call center can't offer them because they're not local. And by the way, there are people who it makes total sense to use a call center. It makes total sense for them.
Right.
And then there are people who want to deal with local. They want to walk in, they want to talk to somebody, they want to feel like this person understands what they're going through because they've gone through it, or they understand the market and they understand the area. And the only way, in my opinion, for you to be able to do that in today's market, in today's world that we're living in, is to go digital.
Yep.
So talk to me about 2021. I mean, do you want to take a leap and say what you Do you expect to do 100% increase, 50% increase, 20% increase? What are your goals looking like as you go into 2021?
Growing the volume and the units, that's certainly top of mind, right? It's how I'm going to get there. And so I'm not a fan of trying to say, like, here's this big sexy number I'm going to hit, and we're
Yep.
just gonna crush it, because the reality is I've got 3 kids, I've got a wife. I mean,
Yeah. Well, those
we
are part of the goals too, right? Is making sure
right.
that you're spending more time, scaling your
I
business,
loved
and being
I
able to do
loved
that.
your video the other day talking about, when you're business planning, plan how you're going to spend your family time. Like, that's
Yes.
amazing, so that your business can run without you. And so that's 2021 is leaning more towards, what infrastructure do I need
Hmm.
to get to those goals? I mean, I have a goal to do, you know, a pretty big increase with my volume, yes. But really, my first priority is to get somebody hired to help me with, some of this back end stuff that is just
Yep.
backlogged, right?
Yep.
CRM management, database management. I mean, because I'm not servicing my clients good enough, is what that the level I know I can, if I don't have somebody there. And then yet I'm out wanting to make videos and podcasts and things, but I'm neglecting my base, right? So, 2021 is getting that organized as quickly as possible and implemented. And then from there, just continuing to put out material and stay engaged with the community. I want to do, close to the 35 million, right? I mean, that's a big increase from where I was. But like I said, I mean, my best year, I did 73 units this last year, for nearly $20 million, right? And
Wow.
so, and that to me is a huge increase. I know to
That's a
some of the
huge
originators,
increase.
that's a drop in the hat. And I get it. We're all in a different phase, but I also I've watched originators go from this level to that next level, that 30 to $40 million level
Hmm.
in production. And they've done it systematically, and they've stayed organized, and they've stayed on top of it, and they didn't really skip a beat in providing that excellent service to their clients while doing that, right? So, that's kind of my big audacious goal. And
Yeah.
but I don't want to sacrifice. I know there's going to be sacrifice, but I'm not going to sacrifice that family time, because you and I have talked about this, with kids and things. My kids are 7, 3, and 7, 5, and 3.
You have
And
beautiful children, man. You have a beautiful family. Like,
thanks.
just it's amazing.
And so we're, this is just a fun age for them
Yeah.
right now, being small, and there's just a lot that we want to do together. And I'm not going to sacrifice that, because I don't want my kids remembering, daddy's always just working. And
Yeah.
like, my son yesterday was like, Dad, can you just stay home today? And I'm like, I got to go into work,
Yeah. It's
but
it's 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 gut wrenching, man. Especially at that age.
yeah,
They're very
it is.
convincing at that age.
Oh, they're the hardest, they're the best salesmen for sure.
The best salesman. No, so I think you mentioned something that I wanna talk about and expand on, because you know I've talked about this over and over and over, and I feel like a broken record, but I think that, and you said it, your process is just as important as getting new clients. Because if you continue to get new clients, and by the way, there's a long line of them outside that need your help. But if you continue to feed the beast without taking a step back and watching your process and figuring out what you can do better on it with your team, then you will continue to have a bad client experience on things that you can clearly control, or you will continue to be working 16-hour days and not having family time, right? And so my advice to anybody in 2021 is to take a step back and look at your process and figure out ways that you can improve it. Many people don't even keep a CRM.
Right.
CRM is absolutely key. Some people are relying on their entire assistant team to do everything, and there's holes there, because that can impact your client experience. And
Exactly.
so partnering with whether if you have an assistant, partner with them, partner with your processor, partner with your manager, and just kind of build what you want and how you want it to look. And then step by step phases in to getting there. And I think that's really, you start there, and that allows you to scale, and allows you to scale without having to spend more hours. And then the moment you start to creep into those more hours, then you add another person to your team. You add another person to your team.
Or delegate, or right.
And continue to delegate, right? So I think the delegation piece is key, but I also think that people got to be careful not to over delegate.
I agree.
There are things that we have to do as loan originators. There are things that we have to do as managers that I can't just delegate to someone else to do.
Yeah,
As much as I would love to, you can't. You
yeah.
do things you're going to have to own.
It's I mean, this business, we've talked about how fickle the business is, right?
Yep.
But there's a certain point where you're an originator. There's a reason that you have the compensation you have, and you have the opportunities for income that you have, and you have to be focused and zeroed in on that value proposition. And if you start delegating that value proposition to somebody else, it loses all momentum. It kills the momentum. I'm sorry. It just kills the momentum that you're trying to build with that base. And so you've got to be willing to have those difficult conversations with clients, with your staff. I mean, but that's the leadership of it, right? That's a whole nother level of just scaling your business. It's a leadership development exercise, and nobody goes into it knowing right away how they're going to be able to manage employees, because people come from all walks of life. You're trying to find somebody that's motivated to work with you and that can share the same goal. And so you're going to trip along the way, scrape your knee, make lots of mistakes, but you get back up, you dust yourself off, and you move on from it. And that's when we talk about marketing and social and digital, I mean, that's the game. And when you became an originator or a real estate agent, you went through the same process just to learn the business, just to learn what a contract negotiation looked like, just to learn how to set up a 1003. You fell along the way. We don't want to go through that pain again. And that's what makes it so difficult, is we know there's pain. Can we grit our teeth and grind through it? Like, that's the grind, right?
Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, it is a grind. I mean, everything that you're doing is a grind, but you got to put everything in perspective and figure out, what makes sense. So I'll never forget, I was at an event with a couple of realtors that we were trying to schmooze. And by the way, just between you and I hate these events. Like, I feel like it's an obligation on both ends, especially if you don't really know each other. We were all in the East Valley. We had taken these guys out to a hockey game, like on the west side of town by Glendale, like super far from where I'm at, super far from probably where you're at as well. So we take these guys out there, and we're talking. I'm like, hey, I saw you had posted you were doing an open house and you were using this one lender. And what happened? Like, how was that going? And he was like, everything was great with that lender until I only dealt with their assistant. And I was like, that's it. That if you can scale and maintain your relationships and maintain that you're never going to be too big to take a customer call, or better yet, that you have such a good process that the customer doesn't call, or that you can alert your realtor before they alert you, then that's the process. Anytime a realtor calls you and asks for status, stop and ask yourself, how did we not get to them before they got to us?
Right. Yeah,
and there's some special realtors out there who are just going to call you every day, and that's special. And there's nothing you can do to win that. But if you could figure out a process, and this is it, you got to just re-engineer your process until you have it right. But if you look at it from that perspective, that allows you the ability to scale it. And you can't delegate those customer contacts. You just can't.
We have amongst my assistant and I, right? We have this thing that says basically the client can't ever talk to more than two people. So we have internal people who take care of other things, but we will never have another internal person call that client when they've already been dealing with the two of us. And there's a certain handoff, right, that I approach, but I always reassure my client, my borrower, and I say, look, I'm still here. And you may hear from this person most of the time, but when there's something important or I need to talk to you about, I'm still going to call you. And if you need to talk to me, I'm still here. I will call you back same day. I will take care of it because that's my job. I'm CEO Chris of At Your Neighborhood Lender, right?
That's it. You got to look at it like that.
And that I'm the face of that.
You're the face of it, and you're the last person. You don't throw your team under the bus. You don't throw the underwriter under the bus. You are the last person that has to deal with everything, right? And if you can own it, you gotta take it from that perspective.
And I you know what? End of the year, I had to own something huge that
I called you on that day. I
yeah,
called you
you
on that
called
day.
me on
Yes.
that day, and I was like, dude, I screwed up huge. And you know, I admitted it. I mean, and the cool thing, the good that came out of it was like my assistant, I mean, he really just teed it up for me to plug and play with it. But I had to make those tough calls, right?
That's it. You have to.
And move forward with it. And but it was, I mean, I still had the support and I didn't have to like think it all through. I mean, that's the dynamic of the team, right? Is
Mhm.
somebody helps kind of lay it up for you so that you can go and take the shot, right? And it all resolved, everything worked out, but it was a big deal. And the thing is, even when you're rolling and you've got experience, like mistakes happen. And that was,
Mhm.
and I told you how, you know, like you're on this hot streak and you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? And what I've equated to is if I'm on too much of a hot streak where there aren't any major
You know it's
issues,
coming.
I'm getting lazy and something's coming. And so I've got
Something's
to
coming.
double sure, like to double check things. And it's just
Yeah.
the human nature of things. It
I've
just,
always said it's just when you think you know this business, there's something around the corner that's going to humble you. And
yes.
it will humble you like that, right? And because it's a manufacturing process.
Hmm.
And every customer is intricate and every customer has a story and every customer has a package. And if you can, and you can miss things, it just happens. And nobody wants to do that. No, we go to bed worrying about that. Nobody wants it to happen, but it happens.
You get so vested in their emotions because you
Yep.
want to see them succeed and you know it's right. It's not there are times, I mean, and I know you can agree with this, you'll give up the entire commission just to make sure they get into a house, right?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
have done that. And it's and that's not because I want somebody, I want to toot a horn and I want like praise. I don't want praise for that. I've done it because I cared, because these people like worked hard and they got
Yep.
to that point. And I mean, you know, what was that old saying, like that it was like a meme for loan officers, a shirt for a couple of years. Um, I'm a loan officer. I find problems you don't know you have,
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
And then I never tell you.
Yeah. And I never tell you. Yeah. That's exactly it. And that's a fine line as well, right? We can go on and
Yeah,
on about that, but that's a fine line. It's like, do I say anything? Do I not say anything? Like,
yeah.
how much do I want to freak people out, and can we resolve
But
it?
but you take care of it for them
You
because that's
have
your
to. Yeah.
job, right?
Yeah.
That they've hired you to represent them, to help them get through the process and get it done and be successful. And you know what? At the end of the day, we want to close, we want to
Yep.
fund, we want to record, and we want to give the keys to the homeowner. And we want the, you know, everybody involved to be excited and happy, because homeownership really is a foundation for families, for
Yep.
communities, you know, a lot of things. And so it's
So I got
important.
to tell you, it's funny. I want to find out the outcome of what happened with your deal, but before I ask you that, um, Gary V used to say, or he said it I think I heard him say it a couple of times, that he tells his team, like, I purposely want you to screw something up on this account because we're just doing too well with it, because I want them to see how we apologize. And
Yeah.
I thought that was so interesting. It's such a like an overconfidence situation, but I think people have to have a process by which they apologize.
Yeah. It builds so much trust in that moment.
Yes.
And because if you screwed that up and you went through the moving mountains to still make it work, what can you do when things aren't going to be that complicated?
Yeah.
And I had a mentor when I worked at a major retail bank, before I was in mortgages, that would always tell me, she would always say, we get sales through service.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, every time somebody's coming in with a problem, that's an opportunity for, you know, sales. And
Yep.
it could be the simplest thing, like my statement's still going to the wrong address.
Yep.
I'm so sorry, let me take care of that for you. It's frustrating, you know. And I mean, you have to roll with it, and you have to make that lemonade, right? And so you got to work with what you've got, and
Yeah.
nothing is always is just going to be teed up for you to hit it out of the park. I mean, if it was like that, just think of how boring life would be, right? I mean,
Well, it's
like,
funny because it'll be Friday night and we get through a problem, right? It all funds, everything is working, and we're like, we would be really bored. Like,
yeah,
we would be really bored if we didn't have these, like, because there's an adrenaline rush when there's a problem and you can solve it, and somebody gets the keys and you're just like, yes.
you know, there's this show, some people may know, it was on Netflix, called Meat Eater. Steve Rinaldi, right? He's
I
a
haven't seen it.
hunter. It's a cool show. He's
Yeah.
like he's a blogger and writer, but he talks about the suck factor and how you're on a hunt and you're like, you're scouting for, in this case, let's call it deer, right?
Yep.
And it's cold, it's windy, you're seeing nothing for like 3 days. And you're just like, what am I doing out here? But when you do finally see something, you don't even have to get it. It's just that is the reward, right, for the
Yep.
suck factor. And then, or you may see nothing, but when you go out again, or you're talking with your friends or your family, you're kind of sharing stories, you can share those moments and those experiences. And what did you learn from it? What did you overcome from it? What did you test yourself with? Maybe you realize that you had more patience and gratitude than you thought, right? And that you just really need to share whatever that is. The point is that's for us, like our suck factor is, we screwed up. We got to fix this right now. Friday at 2:00 before recording office
Yes.
down.
So what happened with this deal? Like, because I remember you telling me like you had to make the call, and that's why we're hanging up. You're like, got to make the call, got to eat crow on this. What did you end up doing? How did it end up resolving?
What happened was I forgot to update my team on the buyers, what the buyers' net proceeds were on the sale of their home. And because the appraisal came in low, I wasn't on the lending side of that one, but it was a contingency situation, and it was like $4,000. And in my mind, I was waiting for like an addendum to come in, and that didn't happen, because why would that happen?
That was you were thinking of the red flag that would alert you to then deal with it.
Yeah. And so I totally dropped the ball. And we had to deal with we had to take care of some other issues before we got to the funding point. But we get to the funding, and it's like, we're short cash to close this $4,000. And I'm like, oh no. So long story short, we made it work. We worked it out with the agent because it was just a dynamic situation that we could do kind of credits and things. And so we made it happen. We made it work. But at the end of the day, it just was a matter of, us doing up a credit for it to cover the difference, because it amounted to closing costs, right?
Yeah. So here, this is, do you mind me going closer? Like you had to eat some crow on this. You had to call. Did you call the realtor first? Did you call the customer first?
Call the customer first, call the client, because we were trying to find a different solution. We were in the process. It was like, it's always one of those, like, who do you call first, client or realtor?
Yeah. Because you're afraid that you're going to hang up with one, they're going to call the other before you can. Like trying to manage
it. And you're like, okay, well, call the client, see if we can get through this. And then, I know that the agent had actually left me a voicemail. I didn't listen to it because I had already kind of looked at what is my solution. And I called the agent. And when I called the agent after we talked to the client, I said, look, I screwed up. This is on me. This is what happened.
That's the way you do it.
And we all knew it was.
Were they mad at you? I mean, they're like, they get mad, but they're like, but I get it. Let's just figure it out.
And that was really the attitude, was like, let's just get it done. Let's just figure it out. Let me know what we have to do. And that was, I'm so grateful that she was on board with, let's just get to the solution. Right.
That's it.
And so that's how, and it makes it so much easier just to focus on the solution and not on, what if this person gives me a bad review? What if this person wants to report me to TFI? Like all this stuff that kind of goes through your mind, because we're licensed, and I mean, that means something. And we knew, things weren't necessarily easy with this transaction. But, and then the thing is when I look back on it, I focused so much on the things that weren't easy, on making sure those things were set up and taken care of. The basics I missed. Again, that hot streak. Where am I growing lazy? Am I not really doing my checks and balances internally? What do I have to make sure that I maybe implement going forward so that this doesn't happen again? These are opportunities where we grow and we refine our business. And it's unfortunate that in the moment, a borrower gets affected and an agent gets affected in the negative way, just so that we can improve from it. Right.
Yeah.
But it happens. And so it closed. Everything was successful. They funded and recorded before Christmas. Borrower was just thrilled with the situation. I mean, there's a much bigger story about why they're happy it got done. And it was a hiccup for sure, but in the end, it was done. So
the biggest thing is that it didn't get hidden. You didn't blame anybody else. You just owned it and you moved on.
Right.
And I will venture to bet, I'll bet a steak dinner on this, that you will get another deal from that realtor on that deal.
I hope. I hope
you will. You will.
If they're watching this and they know that's their story, like I hope that they do, because I felt horrible, like when I saw what was going on in the email thread. I'm like, oh my gosh, what? And this is before Christmas too. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, I got to figure out how to fix this come hell or high water. Otherwise, I'm
Yeah.
not going to have a good Christmas just sitting here thinking about this either. So,
Yes. No, well, Chris, man, I am so glad that I got a chance to bring you on, get a chance to talk to you, do this live with you. It was really cool. I'm actually going to take this and we're going to make this a podcast. I think this will be really good for us to get it out there. I'll get some clips. I'll send them to you, but I appreciate the people who came on. Other Chris Gonzalez, one, thank you for the comment about the branding, the branding podcast. I really appreciate that comment. I appreciate you engaging. But this is so funny that I know two Chris Gonzalez's off of calling the wrong person.
it's
And
spelled with
what's,
a Z. Easy.
well, what's funny is that he actually does a podcast as well, and he's actually like really leaning in. You guys are very similar in a lot of ways in terms of that. So I think it's funny that I got to know both of you. But this has been really fun, man, and I'm looking forward to watching you grow in 2021. I think you're going to crush your numbers, but I will tell you, I do agree with you. It's not about the number. It's going to be about how you build your process and how you show up at home every day. And I want to encourage you to just keep leaning on that and build your plan starting from that perspective. And it'll all fall into place. I'm a firm believer in that. But thank you for coming on, dude.
Thank you for having me, man. This was awesome, great conversation, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you and your insight on things as well. So thank you very much.
Well, I can't wait to continue to collaborate with you in 2021, man. So good luck with everything, and I'll be in touch, brother. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.